Hello everyone, welcome back to Claire's Schools. Today I'm going to be trying to give some answers to one of the questions I get asked most frequently when I'm out on school visits, and that is, how do I choose a college? A couple of points just to preface this video with before we start. The first is that no matter which college that you go to, you will almost certainly end up absolutely loving it. So it is not a massive decision, not something to think for ages about and really agonise over. That said, it is a decision that we obviously allow you to make. Unless you choose to make an open application, we don't just randomly assign you a college. So because of that, I'm going to talk a little bit about aspects that you might consider, factors you might consider when making this, as I say, not hugely important decision. The second prefatory point is that there are no secrets to this process. It's a very transparent process. There is no secret bank of expertise that some people have and others don't, that enables those people who have it to make expert decisions about which colleges are easier to get into or which colleges are the best for certain subjects or anything like that. That just doesn't exist. It's very transparent, as I say, and if you come across anyone who tries to tell you, oh, this college is easier to get into than that, you just need to ignore them because it's not true and they don't know what they're talking about. Now, the university has a short web page with a list of do's and don'ts when it comes to choosing a college, and I'll link that for you down below. Now, you may notice as we go that some of what I say might slightly contradict or sort of point towards a contradiction there with what the university says. That's because they're giving a strict list of do's and don'ts, whereas what I'm trying to do is give you more of a spectrum. So I'm going to give you a list of factors you might consider, or people do sometimes consider when choosing a college, and I'm going to rate them out of 10 based on how relevant they are to your decision. So some will be 1 out of 10, some will be 10 out of 10, a few will be sort of 5 or 6, so kind of, well, I don't want to absolutely say don't do them. Sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're not. So first up, what course have you chosen? The course is the most important decision. I've said this before when thinking about university. Some courses are not offered by all colleges, so that already helps you narrow down the field. If it's a slightly smaller subject, a small subject in the humanities, say, not all colleges will offer those subjects, so you want to be looking up on the university website. You can see it on the prospectus. I've got the online prospectus on screen for you now, and it will show you where you can find this information about which colleges offer you which subjects. So maybe if you choose a big subject, you've still got 29 undergraduate colleges to choose from. It may be if you choose a smaller one, you're down already to sort of 20, even 15, and that will help you narrow down the field. So make sure you start with that, so you're not considering colleges that you're not actually eligible for. So there you go, that's the first factor. Is my course offered by X college? 10 out of 10. That is an absolutely great one to be considering. You must consider that. So next up, you want to be considering how old you are, because there are some colleges, mature colleges, that exclusively take applicants who will be aged 21 or over by the time they start their Cambridge course. That doesn't mean that if you are 21 or over, you can't go to one of the non-mature colleges. They will consider on a case-by-case basis, but it may well be that if you are over 21, you prefer to be going to a college where everyone's kind of in the same boat. The facilities, the activities are kind of designed for people of your age group. So again, as it says here, that's a 10 out of 10 for something to consider. And then to get the last massive and obvious one out of the way, there are a couple of colleges which are female only. So if that's something that you'd be attracted to, that is something to consider. Equally, if that's something that you absolutely don't want to be in that kind of environment, then that may be a reason not to make an open application and therefore to choose a college which is male and female together. So as it says there, that's another 10 out of 10. So next up, is X college close to the centre of town? Now this is a slightly tricky one. So Cambridge is quite a small city, increasingly it's growing. It's very flat, it's very easy to get around. There's no college that's more than about 3 miles away from the centre of town. So it's, in a sense, it's not a massive factor. It's also worth considering that even if a central area of a college is right in the centre of town, it may have accommodation blocks where you'll be living which are actually a bit further out. That said, if you have a real burning desire to be spending a lot of time in the centre of town, to be right in the middle, it may be worth choosing a college that's right in the centre of town. If you have a burning desire to be living away from the centre and want a bit more of a sort of quiet existence with fewer tourists, opportunities to go on really nice country walks, this kind of thing, then you might want to choose one that's slightly further out. So it's not a huge factor. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It's not something you should really think about too much at all. But for some people who have particular really urgent desire to be either in or a bit out of town, then maybe it's worth considering. Next up, is X college big? Is it small? Is it medium sized? Apart from those three sort of really important ones that I gave 10 out of 10 at the start of this video, this is one of the most important factors that you consider when choosing a college. It may be, well, the biggest college is about 1,200 students, so it may be sort of roughly similar to the size of your sixth form or something at the moment. The smallest college is around 500, I think. So that's quite a big difference in terms of feel. You may have as few as sort of 100 people in your year, you may have up to about 240. So if it's just 100 people in your year, you may get to know everyone in your year. It may feel like a real sense of kind of community. On the other hand, depending on your personality, you may feel, oh, that sounds a bit cliquey, it sounds a bit claustrophobic. Okay, so it's entirely down to your personality. If you really like the sound of that quite small feel, then absolutely go for a small college. If you think I want to be a bit more anonymous, I don't want everyone to know me, go for one of the bigger colleges. If you're not really bothered or you want a mix, then go for one that's bang in the middle, so around 600-700 students. So that one gets a 9 out of 10 from me. Whoa there, I seem to have been magically transported to Clare College to tell you to remember to subscribe. Please click that red button down below. Hope you're enjoying the video. Ooh, okay, so who are the teaching fellows at X College? Now the university website says do not consider that, that's one of their do nots. It's a little tricky. So the courses that you'll be taking are all designed centrally. I'm going to say for a science applicant, you should absolutely not consider that. That's a 2 out of 10, it's a 1 out of 10 even, it doesn't matter at all. Now, because of the nature of the way the courses work and the supervision system at Cambridge, a lot of your teaching is done in college. Check out my video on the supervision system if you haven't seen that already. And there is more scope, if you're doing a humanities subject, for individual deviations in the way that each college will teach a specific course. So to give you an example, the course may be for English on a specific term, literature of the 16th and 17th centuries, and depending on your college you may be taught slightly different texts. And focus on slightly different areas. Now, because of that, I do think it's worth looking at college websites, not necessarily looking up the specialisms of your teaching fellows, but looking at what they have to say about the experience of studying that humanities subject at that college, the way it's taught. I think that's definitely useful. The problem with getting your heart set on a particular teaching fellow, well, there are a few problems with it. The first is that if you're doing a humanities subject, you're going to be able to do a dissertation at some point in the course, and you'll be able to work with that person if at that point, later down the line in your third year, you still want to work with them, your interest is still the same. And I'm hinting there towards the second issue, which is that your interests are very likely to change quite considerably from the time you're 17, 18, applying to when you're coming to be in third year and writing a dissertation. And also academics change university, they go on leave, whatever it might be. There are reasons why you may just not get to work with that person anyway, even if you went to their college. So for the humanities, I'm going to really fudge it. I'm going to give it a kind of 5 out of 10. I'm going to say don't choose based on individual teaching fellows that you think you'd like to work with, because you'll get the opportunity to do that anyway. But I am going to say that look at the college websites, look at the experience of studying your subject at that college and see whether the way that they talk about the teaching of that subject sounds like something that you'd like to get involved with. Next up, is there a sports ground, theatre, etc. on site? I'm going to say this is not hugely important. All the colleges have sports grounds, some share them with others, some are a sort of 10-minute cycle away, but the fact is if you're going out to play sport, you're going to be moving around anyway, so a 10-minute cycle I think makes absolutely no difference. If you want to roll out of bed and play football straight away or whatever sport you might be playing, then fair enough, but in general I don't think that's a huge consideration. Things like, is there a theatre on site? Some colleges will have theatres in their grounds. Again, theatre is very centralised in the university, there's lots of inter-college collaboration, so just because you're going to a college with a theatre doesn't mean you're any more likely to get involved in theatre in general. So I'd sort of disregard that really. So that gets a 2 out of 10 from me. So next up is appearance. Does X college look nice to you? Obviously we all have different tastes and different opinions on what looks nice. Yeah, absolutely this is something you can consider. I don't actually think it's too important, because the reality is when you're in a college and living your life there, that you just get used to what it looks like, whatever the buildings look like, it doesn't really matter, you just learn to sort of go about your business anyway. That said, it's obviously nice to go somewhere that has buildings that look really nice to you and that kind of thing. So I'm giving that a kind of 6 or 7 out of 10. It's something that can help you choose if you can't choose based on any other reasons. Oh, next up is application statistics. No. Okay, this is a 1 out of 10, it's a 0 out of 10. A lot of people make this mistake. No matter how many times people like me say that you shouldn't choose a college based on looking at application statistics, people will not listen, I'm sure, and still think that they should. But I'm telling you, it really is not something that you should be making a decision based on. Now, the main reason why application statistics are a terrible way to pick a college is that we have something called the pool. I've talked about that before in my Cambridge application process video. I'll put a link up there for you. And the pool means that if for any reason a college is particularly oversubscribed for a certain subject 1 year and for some reason you don't quite make it for that college, but you're good enough to get into Cambridge, then you will enter the pool and you'll just be picked up by another college. So there's just no point choosing a college based on this kind of statistics. Sadly, no matter how many people like me keep saying this, people will make their decisions based on the statistics, and that can often mean that if a college was oversubscribed last year, it can then be less subscribed for that subject the next year, because there are people who look at the statistics and think, I'm not going to apply there. If a college seemed to be undersubscribed, have a better ratio, a better chance of you getting in last year, maybe a few people then end up applying to that college. So it's always evening out anyway. There's just no way that you can predict the number of people that are going to apply to a subject at any college in any 1 year, because you just can't predict the data in that way. So I just wouldn't bother. Okay, so next up is instinct. This is a kind of difficult one to define. Gut feeling. That's a great reason to choose, I think. It works best if you're able to come and visit Cambridge to have a look around. Obviously, I'm recording this at a time of national crisis. We're on lockdown. You can't travel anywhere unless it's an essential journey. Going to look around Cambridge is obviously not an essential journey, so please don't do that. I'm not encouraging you to do that. But if you're watching this at a later date when those restrictions have been lifted, then yeah, that's a great thing to do actually, is to go and visit Cambridge. Now the university runs something called the Area Link Scheme, so depending on your area of the country, you will have a link college that works with schools in your area and individual pupils in your area, and it may well be that your link college can reimburse you for some, even all of the cost of travel to and from Cambridge to enable you to come and visit. So I'll put the link to that link scheme down below, and you can have a look at what your college link is if you don't know already, and you can email the person working there who'll be sort of in my kind of position, and they will be able to tell you if there's any financial help so you can visit Cambridge. If you can't visit Cambridge, you want to be using the college websites anyway, but the college websites are some way to get that kind of instinct and gut feeling. Have a look at the college websites, have a look at what they say about your subject, about student life, all of that kind of thing. Okay, so next up is kind of continuing that subject of the student life sections of the college website, because that is where you might be able to find this kind of information about living costs, about food costs, accommodation. Is that a good reason to choose a college? Again, I'm going to kind of fudge this one, give it around a kind of 5 out of 10. Yes, the colleges all charge individually different rates for food and accommodation. The reality is that they're all around the same kind of central point. So even the most expensive college is not massively more expensive than the cheapest college. But obviously that is something that you might want to consider. However, don't let a more expensive college put you off going there if you've really got your heart set on it based on all these other factors I've been talking about. Remember, there's something called the Cambridge Bursary. There's lots of financial help available. I'm going to do an entire separate video on that very soon, on financial assistance that the university gives you. It gives you loads, and individual colleges can give you loads as well. So don't let it be something that puts you off going to a college. Right, so there you go. That's all I can think of for now. But if you can think of any other reasons that you might choose, and you want to know how legitimate they might be, you want me to give them a score out of 10, then please comment down below. I'll be very happy to do my best to give you an answer. So I just want to round off this video by repeating what I said at the start, which is that no matter which college that you attend, you'll almost certainly really love it. Basically everyone in Cambridge loves and has a really great time at their college that they ended up going to. So please don't agonise too much over this decision. That said, I've done this video because it's a question that I get asked loads, and I want to give a thorough answer that is nonetheless, of course, heavily based in my opinion. As I say, and I've provided the link, the university has its own advice, which you should absolutely have a look at too. So there we go, that's it from me for this video. There's a lot more content to come, which I'm really excited to be working on. As always, please remember to like, to subscribe down below, to help grow the channel. It's been really great to see how much it's grown over the last couple of weeks. It'd be great to see it keep growing, and to share it So if you found this useful, please do share it with your friends, please do share it with the people that it's aimed at, people in Year 12, people considering these kinds of questions, because those are the people we want to reach, and I'll be really grateful for your help in getting this video out there. So thank you, stay safe as always, take care, and see you soon.